Well, Chris Popper here in Bangor, Dr. Marc Gousse down in Bar Harbor. And Dr. Gousse, last night, which was Thursday, you had your first workshop with the full AOS 91 board in person to talk about back to school plans and options, and everything is supposedly supposed to be voted on Monday. Um, it There's a lot to be decided between now and Monday.
Yes, there is, Chris. And again, with that, information comes in and things change on a daily basis. So it's a fluid process.
I have a couple questions based upon watching and listening to the meeting. Let's just, first of all, you are proposing to the board, which seems like everyone's in acceptance of this, is that for students, school will be delayed a week and it'll start on Tuesday, September 8th, as opposed to Tuesday, September 1st.
Yes, that's actually, I think if you canvassed Hancock County superintendents, you'd find we're consistent, and we've held hands throughout this process, my colleagues. So that's consistent, and that is a recommendation that students in whatever form, whatever platform, begin after Labor Day, correct? And the board will vote on that.
Okay. So assuming that passes, teachers and staff and faculty will go back as normal, but the students will start on September 8th.
I hesitated when you said the word normal because our new normal, right? No, I understand, Chris. That is correct. And our goal would be to use that time for professional development for staff, for preparation. There's a whole host of things that we need to do in whatever platform we use to get ready for teaching and learning.
One of the things I saw on Facebook it was that no matter how seasoned the teacher, how many years the teacher has taught, this will be their first year. I mean, basically with all the changes and everything that's going to be coming down the pike.
Well, I'm really, yes, but I just have to say I'm really proud that, when we flipped the switch in March, that was new territory for everybody. There was and hats off to the community, the staff, and everybody, because people were patient, and we are prepared to apply the lessons we learned from last spring to improve that platform. However we have to move forward, those lessons learned, people have been working really, really hard over the summer to gain that feedback and see what they need to do to adjust those plans. So I know when school starts in whatever platform we're using, our folks are going to be ready, and they're going to step up to the plate, and they're going to do a great job.
Okay, one thing that is consistent throughout every school is that masks will be required.
Yes, thank you, Chris, because I'm scratching my head. People still are wondering. That is a non-negotiable. Masks are required. It's not a Marc Gousse piece. It's not a board piece. It's not that's a requirement from the Maine Department of Education. And so that's non-negotiable. So any parent, student that doesn't feel comfortable with that should pursue the remote option. For staff, it's a non-negotiable. And we all, myself and everybody else, doesn't matter what we do within the school department, that'll be a requirement for all. In addition to practicing our physical distancing, the frequent hand washing, and those pieces, and obviously regularly checking ourselves for symptoms. And I might add that those things, despite any of the other things we're talking about, the scientists, the experts will tell us those are the things that make a difference. And those are the things that have put us in the position to even consider a safe return to school. And I have to implore the community to keep doing those things, because hats off, they've done a great job. And we are fortunate to be even able to ask the question because of the good work that's been done.
Face shields will only be allowed if it's subject to a 50 a child's individual education plan or something to that extent.
Right. A face shield, Chris, a plastic face shield. This is not acceptable as PPE on its own. This, with a mask, would be acceptable. The mask is the minimum standard. This is in addition to, not in lieu of. And so that's important for people to know. And, you know, when this first started out, we were gaining clarification. This was much more comfortable because the airflow, I will say to everybody, my first full day with this was challenging, but over time I've been able to acclimate. And again, the material that you use is, I would encourage people to find what the best fit, the best material, and masks. Again, it's not something that we're going to be able to negotiate or consider. It's something that we all have to do. You're back.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So people are going to have to wear the mask, acclimate, get your child used to wearing the masks.
Yeah, and adults. Again, I encourage folks, you know, wherever I go, I have the mask. So it's part of what we have to do. And I would encourage people to start now.
Okay. Parents do have a choice whether they want to go remote learning or the back to school or the hybrid, whatever method the school chooses. Is that correct?
Well, yes, parents have an option, and I want to clarify, it's not a back and forth. Once you declare, you commit. Now, there will be a transitional period, but we can't logistically manage somebody saying, I want remote, I want in person, switching back, I want remote. So it's a commitment, and people really need to explore what's best for their child and their family so that we can plan accordingly.
If
go ahead.
they do choose remote, they are eligible to participate in athletics, assuming athletics go on.
The short answer is yes. We'll have to meet eligibility requirements, but
yes, certainly
participation in that teaching and learning platform counts for registration and attendance purposes.
Okay. The schools are struggling, and I'm not sure if it was addressed at last night's meeting. Schools are struggling with eligibility in terms of how many students are allowed per building because of physical distancing. For example, in Ellsworth, more students want to attend school than they are able to accommodate. Right. And that's why they're going with a hybrid in terms of X amount of days in school and X amount of days remote learning. Right. That I didn't hear that being addressed last night. Where are you in terms of being able to accommodate students? And I know it's probably different at each school.
That's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously the Cranberry Owls are going to be able to accommodate every student out there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Chris, I think you and most people, we are an amazingly diverse district in terms of density, proximity, buildings, all the way from Frenchboro with 3 students in a 1-room schoolhouse right up to MDI High School with over 550. So we have to, the answer to the question is complex, and I don't want to be evasive, but it really comes down to how many people are selecting the remote or the hybrid so that we can calculate and assess the density. What we're talking about is density on school buses, density in spaces and classrooms, and then we can plan accordingly. What we know is the 6-foot requirement needs to be maintained. However, with PPE and with additional protection, let's say plexiglass dividers and things of that nature, we can go to a 3-foot if we have those barriers. Again, in concert with, not in lieu of. And that planning is underway right now by principals. And I will just add that each school, each principal has established a building-based team because the individuals on that team, nurses, custodians, teachers, administrators, they know their building, they know the layouts, they know the challenges and the capabilities, and they will work to meet those standards. So that work is underway right now, Chris.
Do you anticipate being able to accommodate everybody at MDI High School that wants to attend 5 days a week?
Well, I'm going to hold on answering that because I really don't want to give you an answer that is not completely accurate. And I'm meeting with Matt Haney today. So I'll have more information for you on Monday. But the short answer is I'm confident that we're going to be able to deliver teaching and learning. Now, can I say unequivocally it's going to be, if 550 kids want to walk through the door, I'm not going to put my stake in the ground on that today. But I can put my stake in the ground and say, we're going to be able to deliver teaching and learning. And Matt is working on the logistics of what the schedule will look like. So again, I don't want to be evasive. I just want to give you good and factual information so parents can plan. So I'm happy to do a follow-up with you early next week. And probably with Matt and one of the elementary principals would be good. Okay,
we'll schedule that. So the other thing is that the board right now is looking at 4 options, if I understood it. One is to open remote only on September 8th and remain remote for the first 2 weeks and begin phase in to full hybrid in-person models by September 25th. Secondly, open September 8th for some students, i.e. the most vulnerable and those in kindergarten for in-person and phase in other students to be implemented by October 13th. 3, open September 8th for full hybrid in-person for all students and staff. And 4, open remote only on September 8th and remain remote only through October 12th, which is Indigenous Peoples Day, and then begin full hybrid in-person models on October 13th.
Yes, Chris, you captured that well, and I know you're reading off the PowerPoint. And if people I just want to emphasize, if people want, they should go to the web page and just click on the agenda for Monday, and I believe that's been attached to the agenda. And
I have it on a story on DEA with the whole presentation from last night.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people can get those options so they can process them.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So the other thing is that was talked about last night is that transportation is going to be an issue. Trying to get everybody to school, and then to and from school with the new safety requirements. And then the other thing that I have a question on that I don't know if it's been addressed in any school district that I've seen. For remote learning, will food be distributed like it was during the remote learning stage?
You want me to take the last one first?
Yes, because I think that's no one's addressed that, and I don't know if that's ever been asked.
I first want to say that the pieces we're talking about and the challenges, and I appreciate, these are not MDI specific. These are all over the state, all over the nation. So I appreciate being able to tackle that. I'd say with the food insecurity, the amazing work that was done in this region and in other areas, I am very confident that we will be able to rally the resources to meet the needs of families and students and children in need. Can I say specifically right now that this program X or Y or Z is in place? No, but we will be running our food service programs, and I'm confident that we'll be able to meet the needs. And that's something we haven't discussed yet, Chris, but it's certainly going to fall into the planning with our food service and delivery. And by the way, I think food service will look differently. There'll be no vending machines, no salad bars, no a la carte. It'll be pre-prepared. Yes, we may have salads, but it's not going to look like the way it was. And so with those pre-prepared things, I'm confident that we'll be able to distribute and meet the needs of food insecurity.
Yeah. So the other thing, to talk about the buses, if you would.
Sure. So Ian Braun did a really nice job last night clarifying, because I don't want anybody to think that we can't open. We can open, but like any school, and we're no different than any school, we don't have unlimited resources. For example, cadres of bus drivers and custodians that are extras or spares. We have an amazing crew of people, but we are lean, I think is the word that was used. And so if somebody becomes ill or compromised, that can in fact impact the plan significantly. And that includes substitutes, it includes teachers, ed techs, and it certainly includes our administrators. Our administrators have been working since March 13th. They haven't stopped, and I'm worried about their vulnerability. So transportation is something that even without COVID was a challenge before. People had a hard time getting drivers. People had a hard time making sure that we could keep that system going, and it's simply a personnel matter. That hasn't changed. And so what we're asking people to do is, if you can transport your children to and from, if you can, that is going to help, and that will help us know what our capacity is. Our bus capacities are going to be 33% of what we could normally carry. Why 33%? We have to maintain the 6-foot standard. We have to make sure that we have one child per seat. And if there's a family, they can sit together, those children. But it can't be my neighbor, my friend, my cousin. It has to be family. And so that is going to cause us to, if you think of a bus, think of it as like a diagonal, every other seat. And much like we had last night in the auditorium, we just have to maintain that. What that's going to mean is we may have to stagger runs. We may have to, it's going to be a scheduling challenge. And back to your question about the high school, Chris, that's probably why you're seeing hybrids and flipping of combinations of remote in-person. And that we will most likely mirror that. So transportation, we're not at a point where we can say, no, we can't do it. In order for us to commit to say this is what we're going to do, and with the board, there's a series of things that have to happen. One, surveys, parents, information, decide what option you want to do. Certainly weaving that in. And so the transportation and the scheduling is really going to determine the platform. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I know that was a question that came up last night. Are you planning on resurveying teachers? Are you planning on resurveying parents?
Well, I would say this. The short answer is I don't see how we cannot continue to ask for feedback. Let me. COVID-19, the information and the data changes daily. It changes daily. I'll give you a quick example. This was the summary results of the parent survey, and that's available to the public. When this survey went out, a staff survey went out. I think it might have been a week and a half, 2 weeks. That's a lot of time between that and that. And so when you look and you're trying to compare that information, we need to continue to survey, gain feedback, and make sure that the decisions we're making are based upon real-time information to the best of our ability. Do I see us surveying people every week? No, I don't know.
Well, and that's like what you said, is that once people commit, and there will be a commitment date, that's when you're going to have to stick to it for a period of time.
Yeah, there's certainly the formal surveys, and I want to underscore the value of that. But the informal survey is, hey, parents, you got a concern? Call your principal. Hey, staff member, you got a concern? Talk to your principal. That's not a formal survey, but that's feedback, and that's information we need in order to determine what we need to deliver and how we can best serve our kids and our communities and our staff.
Okay. One thing that came up last night was there will not be volunteers in the buildings. Parents will not be allowed in the buildings. The public will not be allowed in the buildings.
Think of
So,
it this way, Chris. Think of it as in the worst for any family with COVID, God forbid it impacts a family member and they have to be quarantined or they're in the hospital. Our schools need to become sanctuaries, pods, if you will. And I understand that that may be difficult, but if the goal is to return to teaching and learning in person, then there are going to be some tough decisions and some tough things that we all have to do to support that platform. And if we're not prepared to do that, we can't do it. I think we can do it, but there are sacrifices that we need to make. And I want to emphasize again, these are not short term. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. For anybody to believe that this is going to be over anytime soon, it's not. And that is true even when a vaccine may become available. When it becomes available, the vaccine is not going to be the be all end all to say, okay, we're done. We will still need to continue to do these things to make sure that we keep safe, because even with a vaccine, our most vulnerable populations still need to be protected. And even with a vaccine, boosters will need to be employed. So I can't emphasize enough that this is not short term. And for people that think, well, I'm okay, I don't need to wear a mask, that's just, we all have to do these things for this to be successful. And if we're not prepared to do that, then that's a game changer for all of us.
right. Okay. Um, you are working on an extensive handbook that's going to be distributed to parents, staff, faculty, and students.
Yes, I have to give credit to my colleagues, superintendents around the state. Let's be honest. If you went onto any website and looked at plans or handbooks, or for that matter, policy, I don't want to use the term boilerplate, but there are many, many, many standards that have to be met through CDC and state guidelines. We're a public school system. We need to abide by that. So there's been much good work done by, in particular, two superintendents in Southern Maine, Jeremy Ray in Biddeford and Heather Perry in Gorham. And those two collaborated, and their good work has been shared with superintendents, the Maine School Superintendents Association. It's been vetted by legal counsel to make sure that the things in there are aligned with state law, federal law, and policies. So the work that we're doing right now, and we've been given permission, and I think many of my colleague superintendents, I know many of my colleague superintendents are using this as a framework. We are tailoring that and making sure that it's aligned with our collective bargaining agreements, our student handbooks. And there are certain things, for example, we don't have an HR director. So we have to insert different platforms. That's a lot of work, and we're doing that work. And I hope to be able to have the first draft of that ready to go mid next week to the end of next week. But that is going to be a key component. And the other reason I'm holding off is a lot of this depends on what the board decides to do. And we want to make sure the work we're doing is quality work. So that handbook's forthcoming. It's going to answer a ton of the questions that parents and staff have. For example, staff are wondering, well, if I can't come to work or I don't feel comfortable, and feeling comfortable and can't are two different things. But that'll guide them as the process in terms of what options they may have, whether that's the COVID Relief Act funds, whether it's family medical leave or requesting of leave of absence. And I have to say that our staff are amazing, and I understand their concern, but we have to be paying attention to what our entire country and world has been doing. Firefighters, doctors, frontline people. I don't consider myself any more, well, for me personally, when I see these people functioning, and if it's safe for them with proper protocols to move forward, I think as educators, we have to look at that and be cognizant of that. And I know some folks may disagree, but that's why we've had zones set up. That's why the color coding is so important, because working with medical experts and professionals, we can deem whether or not it is in fact safe with proper precautions and protections for children and staff to return. And right now, We're in a green zone. And right now, our medical professionals in this community, the hospital, the Jackson lab, are saying, we're in a green zone. We can return with the caveat that the personal protection equipment and all of those things that we mentioned last night are all in place. And if they're not in place, we shouldn't open. So there's a caveat to that.
Okay. A lot for people to digest. Hopefully they'll have watched the meeting from last night, the story we have on the WDEA site, and this video. The board meeting again for the next AOS 91 meeting is Monday night. Is it Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday at 5:30.
Monday is the 10th.
10th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Monday the 10th at 5:30. The link is posted in the agenda. Again, if people are planning to attend in person, that's fine, but we're going to be limited to 50 people, and we're going to shut it down at 50. It's the first people that will come in. Obviously, we have to have a quorum, board members and administrators, but it's a public meeting, and if we get to the 50 threshold and somebody can't come in because of that, they will be able to view it live stream, and it will be recorded. So I just want
and it's going to be on the MDI TV YouTube channel.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. So we'll post that link as well. All right. I appreciate your time. We should follow up next week. And if we could get Matt Heaney and another principal or principals, that would be great.
Chris, can I just close with one thing?
Yes, please.
I'm not a big social media. I don't do social media, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But I'm conscious and I'm aware there's a lot of people that do. I would just encourage people to be really careful about where they get their information. And that's not. I'm not poo-pooing social media. If it doesn't come from a credible or factual source, for example, the school department or the school board or an administrator, I would caution people, because there's a lot of things that have been relayed to me that are just inaccurate. And I think we have to separate feelings from facts. Feelings from facts. I understand people's feelings. I certainly understand fear. And a lot of those things can come from not having information. And I hope that the information and the training will reassure people. I take very serious my role as superintendent. I want people to remember that on March 13th.
Well, you were the first to close down.
It's not about being the first, Chris. It's about the fact that we didn't hesitate to do the right thing with safety. And I'm sure as heck not going to hesitate to do the right thing. I do know that people's lives are literally in the palm of my hand. I go to bed at night and I think of that. I'm not doing this in a vacuum, as some would suggest. I am not doing this in a siloed way. I am not doing this in a way that is non-transparent. We had over 30 people on our task force. So I just have to say, for those people out there on social media and Facebook or whatever that are bashing me and saying that this is being done in a way that is non-transparent, it's unfortunate to hear those words, because we've done our very, very best to, in fact, be transparent and be open. So if anybody has questions and concerns, please contact me. And I want to emphasize, for parents and community members, if you have questions, contact your building administrator. Don't make assumptions. Ask questions and get facts, please.
Right. And if you do, as a community member, want to have your voice heard, make sure you send an email to a board member prior to Monday night's 5:30 meeting.
Correct. And I just want to close by saying, I am not, I'm not chastising or saying people not to use social media. I just want to caution them how they process their information, as they would with any media source. I use multiple sources when I'm gaining information, and I would encourage people to do that as well. And this is, in closing, I can't thank people enough. The way that we're going to move forward is together. If we don't move forward collaboratively and by working with each other, we're not going to be able to pull this off. We have to be able to listen. We have to be able to talk, and we have to be able to problem solve. That's how we're going to move forward. And lastly, this isn't about me. It's about kids. And right now our kids are vulnerable in whatever way possible, in school or remote. We need to make sure that our kids are safe, and we need to make sure our kids are educated. And we can't do that without our teachers, and we can't do that without our parents and community. So I just appreciate the opportunity to continue the dialogue on this, Chris. Thank you.